Hello and welcome to another Infinity N5 Battle Report for Season 17. This battle report is for a tournament that I participated in for the new year of 2026. It is called the New Year Knockout and it was an invitational tournament only, mainly due to space being limited as it was being hosted at a player's home. So we only had allowed a maximum of 6 players, and it was more sensible to just put the invitation out and see who was available, because obviously during the Christmas New Year period many people were busy or away, and so we ended up having a total of 6 players, which was good. That was the maximum limit for the guys' place, and I ended up placing 3rd overall. So this is my first list. As you can see, the relevant fire teams here. So in Group 1, I had a Harris consisting of a Knight of Santiago Killer Hacker, a Crozier with HMG and Multispectral Visor level 2, and a Crozier Paramedic. Now this Harris was more or less, depending on the mission and the opponent lineup, was either the main assault fire team or the backup assault fire team. The Knight of Santiago Killer Hacker was just another Killer Hacker available along with Deferson, because one thing with having a Knight heavy list is that hackers are still a threat, but we do have some good hacking options to help counter that nowadays. The Crozier HMG is a very good active turn weapon and should be used that way, and it's just very good at putting down or seeing through smoke, as you know a lot of people do play with smoke, so it sort of nullifies that. And the Crozier Paramedic is there just to help the Knight of Santiago come back up, or the Crozier HMG if wounded. Then I have a Curator with a Power Bot, that is the engineer for military orders, and that is just to be spread out to provide mainly the removal of hacking states. That was one of the things I've noticed in playing military orders, is it's very hard to remove states, especially isolated and immobilized B, because it impacts whip rolls, and so having an engineer around helps mitigate that risk slightly. Then we have 2 Trinitarians with Forward Observer and Mine Layer, and they both have the deployable repeater. So basically in deployment I can set up a repeater network in the midfield, which has become quite a good tactic for myself. Cannot say for other players who play military orders. But I do like having 2 repeaters in the midfield and putting my Trinitarians in deployment. It's just a good mental game to throw the opponent off. And also had a Crusader Forward Observer, which was just another specialist to do anything that the mission needed. I found the Crusader to be a very good utility piece to help solve problems on the battlefield. One example was Miranda Ashcroft isolating most of my infantry with her emitter, and then just having the Crusader parachute on behind her, shoot her in the back and kill her is a great tool for problem solving, and also has the ability to do mission objectives, and in this mission lineup it was quite useful. Group 2 consisted of a core of 9 Hospitallars, led by a Hospitalar with HMG, which is another main active shooting platform. Obviously military orders is famous for its Spitfire range weaponry, which can be good in the midfield. However, sometimes you do need that long range active piece. It just helps basically keep Knights out of trouble. Without that, you are hamstrung quite easily with long range arrow pieces such as missile launchers and sniper rifles. So having 2 HMGs, one to help counter any mimetism and smoke problems, and another one just to be a general assault piece, is good for my gameplay, and I enjoy fielding it this way. In the core we have Deferson, who is the lieutenant. Now that we have a chain of command option, military orders can shine using its active lieutenants. And this Deferson only has the multi-rifle and light flamethrower option, because it is cheaper, and it's in a fire team, so he doesn't need to be the active shooter. He's there to do his main role as being a hacker, and making him the lieutenant, it's really good because you can push the fire team forward, spend his order as the last order, push him out, do an objective or do something to affect the opponent or the mission, and then move him back into the zone of control of the team lead, which is generally the HMG, and then he automatically rejoins the fire team in the states phase. at the stage phase at the end of the round, or my turn. And then we have another Knight Hospitaller with a multi-rifle PS6 and a Tinbot Firewall -3, mainly there just to provide counter-hacking support to the other Knights, because even though they have BTS6, an extra -3 on top of that really helps, and it makes it harder for enemy hackers to deal with. And then finally a duo consisting of a Crozier mine layer with a multi-sniper rifle and EM mines, and is followed up with a Knight Commander Chain of Command. And this is a good little duo because the Knight Commander counts as a Crozier, and this is a Crozier duo or a military orders duo, and it basically is just there to give that sniper rifle the +1 special dice in active and arrow. For my second list, it remains functionally the same, just a few changes with the fire teams. So the core fire team of the Hospitallers is in Group 1 now, with a duo sniper rifle and the 2 Trinitarians. And Group 2, instead of having that HMG presence, it consists of a Knight Hospitaller with a boarding shotgun and emitter, with the Knight of Santiago killer hacking device to give just a firewall to everyone. And I did this because EM weaponry is quite a good, it's quite powerful now, EM ammunition. And the emitter, it is electromagnetic, so most people think that ammunition applies to remotes, tags, and heavy infantry mainly, and vehicles. But what I've noticed is that emitters, you can still fire them at a trooper and put them in an isolated state, and that can be light infantry and medium infantry. And that has an impact on the game by preventing that trooper from receiving orders from their order pool. So now they just become a irregular trooper that can use only one order, their own irregular order, and it really shuts down gameplay. And I found this to be quite frustrating myself for my light infantry. You get shot by emitter, and then say the Black Fry in a previous game, it can only spend one order, so it sort of nullifies the ability for such troopers. So I thought I'll just change it to a duo and have this run around just to be an annoying pain in my opponent's side. And this is followed up with a Harris consisting of a Crozier Paramedic, the Knight Commander Chain of Command again, because DeFerson is the active lieutenant, and the Black Friar with Thunderbolt +1 burst. And I chose this option because normally as an ARO piece he's always targeted and he always goes down. And I thought, since I'm swapping out the HMG, it's roughly the same points for the HMG and no SWC for the Thunderbolt +1 burst. So you have all the benefits of MSV level 2, combat instinct, so surprise attack won't work against him, and the Thunderbolt is basically what I consider a heavy rocket launcher without the continuous damage. It is a PS6 weapon with heavy rocket launcher ranges or HMG ranges. However, on either side of that, it's zero modification to the range bands outside its effective range. So it's quite reliable. So the Black Friar Thunderbolt +1 burst was my alternative active shooter, or to deal with any mimetism camo units. And it also has albedo -6, so it's putting those what was strong in N3 and N4, those ARO pieces that were multi-sniper rifles with MIM3 and multi-spectral visor 1 or 2, and you shoot through smoke all the time, and it was just annoying and frustrating gamers. So I think by making albedo a counter to a spectral visor is great, because now the Black Friar has a profile that is there to counter all those N2 and N4 common ARO pieces that were just dominating the game. And we're not even ARO pieces that use them actively, they just throw smoke and move the sniper there and just shoot everything, there's nothing you could do. So the Black Friar is designed to counter all those troopers, such as the snipers and LF, the Agima marksman, and the various other types, some sort of powerful support weapon with MIM and MSV itself. So it's putting those troopers on a -6 modifier, which it increases their chance of rolling low numbers. So basically it's functionally the same tactic, but the Harrison duo sort of changed just to reflect whatever opponent I'm coming up against, especially if it's a heavy MIM opponent. Okay, so the first game was Critical Intervention. So my plan was to be the defender for this mission. In previous games, which was only one, or was it two? Anyway, I was the defender naturally, because my opponent would normally select to go first, and I found it easier to score objective points whilst being the defender. So while it did not win in those previous games, it did make scoring objective points a lot easier, and so my lists were not tailored for going first for this mission. I did have a plan to go first, but it seemed very flimsy to succeed, and so I just stuck with what I know, and if given the option I will have a second turn. The next game in the tournament was Last Launch. This is game number 2, and this mission does seem very order intensive, and it looks like there are a lot of options for winning, and all the objective points are at the end of the game. So my plan was really just to kill as many enemy specialists and complete my classified objectives for hopefully at least 5 objective points, and with the option of dominating the launch tower if I could. Third mission for the tournament was evacuation, and my plan was, it's quite simple, right? Like, you look at the objectives here: extract civilians, extract HVTs, and you have 2 classifieds. It seems to be quite a simple mission. It is quite order intensive, and it is end of game scoring. So for this, my plan was to complete my classified objectives first, and then in the following rounds extract at least 1 civilian per round, or maybe 2, depending on how the mission plays out. And I'd use the Trinitarians to civ-evac the civilians nearest my deployment zone, and then the plan was to use the Crusader to drop in and civ-evac the civilian farthest from my deployment zone. The goal is to try not to alpha strike the opponent. It's just to keep focused on the mission, and just do those classifieds first, because that's 4 points right there, and then you could just easily add a couple of more. The main goal is to score at least 5 objective points, because you gain another tournament point for winning, and that can help push you into the higher half of the participant groupings. And then my deployment was to deploy in a way just to keep most of my troopers alive, so be very conservative, and just to defend my half of the table. Now for the tournament. During the tournament, the temperature reached near to or at 40 degrees centigrade, so it was quite a hot day for gaming and bringing in the new year. Nothing makes this game more challenging than a tough environment to play in. It certainly tested my physical limits. Game 1 was critical intervention. I won the lieutenant's role and elected to have the second turn. I wanted to be the defender because of my previous game experience. And in those games I was the defender and found it easier to play as the defender than the attacker. So my opponent deployed Morats. Roughly, from what I can remember, he had a Syriat heavy rocket launcher and a fire team with Vanguard infantry and a Kurgat engineer. And this was deployed up here with the engineer down here and the rest of his guys behind this building. Then he had a Sogarat NCO with APHMG here. Had Kornak, which I think was his lieutenant, hiding behind this building of the corner here. He had +1 lieutenant order. He had a Rodoc hacker, I think, behind here. Duo of Datarazis, which I think were around here somewhere. And a Harris of an Osnat and Praetors, which were in this area here. And a Zerat with medium marksman rifle somewhere here. Let me just clear the board up a bit. So for myself, I had the Crozier sniper with not commander Chan of command there. I had my curator here with a powerbot here. The Hospitaller core was in this area here. The other Harris was here. This is the Crozier HMG, and this is the Nata Santiago. Had a deployable repeater here, and another one here, and I had one Trinitarian right here just to the left of the door and another one in this area here, and my HVT was here and the treasure is here. So that was my deployment. I had basically one HMG on either side of the flank, this one looking down to here and this one looking down to here, and these trees that were on the table, they were played as complete blocking line of fire terrain and as their silhouette. Not so much the palm trees, but the little clumps of trees, they were terrain blocking that at the height of it. So the shape of the tree was the actual terrain piece. And then my classified was HVT reverse engineering. So the Morats went first, and the Suryat heavy rocket launcher ended up killing the Crozier sniper rifle, and then climbed down to here, moved in position here, and then took out my engineer, the curator. Datarazzi's moved and through smoke, I think one around here, and they sort of just moved up and ended up, sorry that's a bit busy, but ended up just to the left side of the building here. So they sort of moved up here. Surrogate HMG moved up and killed, I think along the way somewhere, killed my Crozier, Hospitaller HMG, and the Osnats from here just moved up and pretty much just established a blocking unit all sort of facing the rear here to cover that area. Just let me clear the board up a bit. And then the Zerat ended up moving up here and ended up being in suppressor fire there. So for the Knights, the left Trinitarian reveals the camo marker and moved all the way up to here, dropping a deployable repeater here, and after a few attempts, Deferson just failed to isolate and immobilize we cannot isolate the Morats because they're warhorse, but failed to do any spotlighting or carbonating of the heavy rocket launcher. Oh, and the rocket launcher also took out, I think when moving down here, took out my Crozier HMG as well. And so the Santiago Knight and the paramedic sort of moved up to here, one behind the bus and the paramedic just behind this cover here. And then the Hospitaller with Deferson and the Timbot firewall ended up being a duo, so they just sort of had to shuffle around a bit to come up here. So the Knight Timbot ended up here and Deferson ended up here. I'll just clear the board again, we'll clear the photograph. And the Morats in this turn, they make the main effort. So the Sasha ends up running around here and tries to activate the inhibitor antenna, but my Trinitarian reveals and kills the Sasha, well, puts it in unconscious state. And then there was another trooper that does the same thing. I cannot remember which trooper it was, but anyway, it runs around here, and my Trinitarian puts that unconscious as well. The Datarazzi's, one moves up here, one moves up here, and then each one alternatively places smoke through the door because they're open doors, and it basically just blocks this corridor off any visual line of fire through there. And so that remains for the whole turn, and then one of the Datarazzi's, I think, ends up killing my Trinitarian. And then a paramedic comes along, I'm not sure where it came from, but ends up coming up and reviving this troop, this Morat and the Sacha, and then basically runs through, revives them. Then the Sacha turns the console, it unlocks the console, and then this paramedic just runs through, picks up and runs all the way back down behind this building here. and that's pretty much the main effort for their turn. And then when it's the Knight's turn, the Crusader attempts to land just under this bridge here, just to the side of the building where there's no one that can see it. And the plan was to run around and shoot that trooper, but it fails its roll and then ends up down here. And at this point, like, I've lost a few troopers. I have no orders left to move the this Trinitarian up here eventually was unconscious in all of that fighting with the Morats, and then yeah, my Crusader was the only one that could achieve it, but I did not have enough orders to super jump my way through there. I mean, I probably did, but the thing is I had so many guns pointed at me that I would have died along the way my dice were going. So that was that, and that just gave my opponent a major victory for Morats. Game 2 was last launch. So I lost the lieutenant's role, not lost. And my opponent chose deployment and deploy on the slightly better half, and I was to deploy first, so I kept initiative and chose to have the first turn. So I was playing against US Ariadna, and they had two Devil Dog teams around here somewhere. They had a core fire team in the center here with the Unknown Ranger, Grunt Sniper, Paramedic, and another couple of guys there. This camo token turns out to be a Foxtrot Ranger throughout the game. They had a Minuteman with missile launcher just under the bridge here. There was a AP HMG here, and then a Marauder Paramedic there. Two Mavericks, I think, one there and another one there behind that building. And from the previous game I heard he had Van Zant, so I expected Van Zant. Oops, wrong button. So for my deployment, I had my Crozier Sniper up here with the Knight Commander, Chain of Command there, and for my whole mission list he was what was he? Just a plain Crozier on the courtesy list. My HVT over here, Treasure there. I had my core Hospitaller team here with a HMG on this side and the Fersen here, and then I had the Knight of Santiago, Crozier, HMG, and the Paramedic here. And in front of this building was the Curator prone, and the power bot was, I think, behind this little cover here, but in front of this building. And then I had a deplorable repeater here with a Trinitarian down here, and another repeater here with a Trinitarian there. And sorry, this game was taken after round 1, I think. I don't know, but anyway, it's nothing really moved, so it's okay. And then my classifiers were HVT Espionage, HVT Reverse Engineering, and Net Undermined. So Knights went first, and the Knights Hospitaller with the HMG engaged the Minuteman missile launcher. So the first engagement was out of range, and I took a risk and moved him around here. It was within range, and then successfully put down the Minuteman missile launcher. He only went unconscious though. And then the Crozier HMG here, so I did like a look out and look back in, and then successfully discovered this camo token, and the next order ended up killing the Foxtrot Ranger from there. And then he positioned himself to the right of this bus, like there's a bit of an undercover there, so he positioned himself here, and he had a small window literally down there looking straight for anyone moving down there, which ended up being a very solid position in the game. It had made my opponent hesitate to move out. And with the Trinitarian on the left, moved and did a run towards US Ariadne's HVT, sort of moved out through here as a camo state and moved up the stairs here and ended up in the stairs, and then managed to do net undermine. And then it was US Ariadne's turn, so Van Zant ended up landing sort of here, just outside, line of sight of everything, and moved here and fired his T2 boarding shotgun, I think, or T2 rifle, can't remember. Anyway, it was a T2 ammunition weapon, and killed the Hospitaller with Tinbot, but ended up being killed by the HMG with the pistol. Like, it took a few orders, I think it took back 2 orders, so the HMG managed to turn around and have his line of sight sort of that way, and then just shot him dead with a pistol, which I was very happy about. Because Van Zant can be quite annoying from previous experience. Then the Minuteman with the AP HMG moved up to the corner of this tower here and tried to engage the Hospitaller HMG, and the Hospitaller dodged back behind the vehicle in cover. And then his core fire team with the Grunt multi-sniper rifle being activated, and then try to take out my Crozier multi-sniper rifle, but my Crozier wins and puts down the Grunt MSR into unconscious. And then the motorbike zooms around and throws a bit of smoke down to help try to do something, but I'm not sure what his plan was with that. Oh yeah, sorry, it's just to obscure my sniper and HMG. But because he had because my Crozier HMG had multi-spectral visor level 2, I still managed to put a few pot shots away, and it sort of just locked down his core fire team there. And the Devil Dog team sort of just moved around. The Crozier took a shot at one, or took a couple of shots and managed to put one of the Devil Dogs down. It's a bit messy, sorry. Then the Knight's turn again. I can't remember everything, so this is just sort of the main events that I do remember. And then the HMG into first and sort of move up, so HMG moves around here into first and moves his way up to here. And I think the HMG moves up here, and then the first moves up here, and he's within range of US Ariadne's HVT, and he manages to complete HVT espionage. And that's about sort of all that I remember from this game. All I know is that the Crozier multi-sniper rifle did great work in this game. I just had really good dice, and my sniper just ended up from here just locking down this part of the board and that fire team, and my HMG also ended up locking the core fire team down. I think I did manage to take out a couple of his Mavericks that ended up driving around here. But basically I ended up killing all his specialists, and the Knights suffered very little in return, so this was a minor victory for military orders. The last game was Evacuation, and again I lost the Lieutenant's role, and my opponent chose Initiative and to have the first turn, so I kept deployment and I deployed second. So my opponent was playing Oban, and from memory there was Yojimbo just on the road here behind this sniper tower, and then he had an Arigato Sekenbatai, I think was here, and the Koshi rider, which turned out to be his lieutenant, as I found out later, was there. He had a five-person Kaisetsu corps, with these three being the Thunderbolt +1 burst or Thunderbolt with BS attack -3. There was 2 camo tokens, one up the top here, one on down the bottom stairs, which I'm pretty sure was the Ryukin heavy rocket launcher. There was a Shikimi with a contender somewhere. I cannot remember. I think that was his reserve drop. That was his treasure, and his 2 HVTs. I cannot remember. And there's 2 decoys here, and these were Samza and the decoys. Just clear the board up before I explain what I deployed and did. So for this one I was quite mentally fatigued and the heat was actually making it hard to play, and my plan really was just to be very conservative, so I deployed very conservatively. So I had my Crozier Sniper duo down here with a Knight Commander Channel Command there. I had my Paramedic, the Knight of Santiago, and the Crozier HMG here. So my Crozier could sort of see down there and down there, but not be targeted by anything up here or up here. Because remember, we played this as infinite height, the objective room. What else? I think that was my curator there. Power bot was in front somewhere of these buildings, and I had my Knight Hospitaller team with I think this was the Fersen, that was the tin bot, either way. And then my HMG was standing up in front behind this cover, sort of again looking down those ways. And I just decided to deploy very conservatively, and was hoping that my sniper would outrange most of his ARA weapons. And for this, my classified was Sabotage and Data Scan. So the scenery item on the right in the yellow circle was the designated target for Sabotage. So Oban went first, and basically Yojimbo just ran all the way around here, threw a couple of smoke grenades, released a crazy koala, and then ended up in CC with the Knight of Santiago. And during all that, the Hospitaller HMG and the Knight of Santiago sort of shot at Yojimbo as he was moving into CC, and basically ended up what happened? That's right, the Santiago missed the shots, but the HMG hit and basically killed Yojimbo, and the crazy koala bounced off the Knight Hospitaller with HMG, which I was very happy about. And then he decides to activate this decoy and run it all the way up here, up these stairs, which is Samza. Does a super jump, shoots that Crozier, and then my sniper shoots back and takes out Samza. Then for the Knight's turn, the Trinitarian on the right, oh sorry, I should say that one Trinitarian was here, the other one was hidden deployed here, moved around the right and destroyed this, obviously revealed. Can't remember if I placed another repeater here or not, but anyway, ended up in camouflage state here. And that allowed me to complete Sabotage. The Crozier Sniper now moves here and takes out that Kosatsu. And then the Hospitaller core decides to move, and the HMG moves along here, takes that one out, moves along a bit further and takes that one out, all in single orders, which I'm very happy about. And this allows me to free up space along this corridor here. Sorry, just continually cleaning the board a bit. And then DeFerson manages to run out to here. Oops, let me select the color. Run out to here and manages to complete Data Scan against this Oban tripper here. I don't remember what that was, but anyway, there's a tripper there. So he does that, and then he moves back down into position here. For Oban's counter attack for that, I guess. Both the motorbikes. Anyway, they zoom out here. And then the one with the AP Spitfire ends up in here, and the Koshi Rider ends up in here. And the AP Spitfire tries to take out the HMG guy, but manages to be killed. And then the Koshi Rider moves into here, threatening my Trinitarian that is in a camo marker here. And they manage to complete one classified objective. And I'm not sure which turn this is, but they did manage to yeah, someone manages to pick up the civilian and run it here and extract it. I think it might have been the Shikimi actually, and then it ends up sitting here and N is in suppressor fire state. And then some sort of fire team moves into this objective room here. So then it's the Knight's turn to have another go. And the Crusader lands just here on the board edge and manages to jump up and civivac the civilian, but stays there. And the left Trinitarian moves into the silhouette contact and civivac this trooper, and basically does an extraction run all the way through here and extracts the trooper. Extracts the civilian. And the right Trinitarian ends up moving around here. There, and takes out the Kosher Rider, which was the lieutenant for Oban. And then obviously Oban are not in loss of lieutenant because of this, which is obviously means they have a chain of command somewhere. And then the Harris team moves in here and they fire an Eclipse grenade down here. And then I think the Shikimi comes in here, takes my HVT there, I have one there, the other one's here, pick it up and then do a run and extract that. And then it's my last turn, and then the Crusader from up here basically does a super jump all the way down into here and extracts the civilian, the second civilian. The first one moves up and tries to kill the enemy hacker in here, and does so. And from what I remember, that is the game. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm a bit light on details, my memory is a bit sketchy, but that is the end of the game for the Knights, and it is a major victory for them. And that's the end of the games for the tournament. Now for the after action review. So for critical intervention, here are the results. As you can see, I scored nothing. So my opponent, he scored objective points for unlocking the data console, extracting the data pack, having the trooper with the data pack not killed at the end of the game, having the data pack end up in his deployment zone, and to kill more army points. And he completed one classified. Nothing more to be said there. Second game, last launch. A bit more of a fun game for myself, however not so much for my opponent. The objectives, I completed my classifieds, and at the end of the game I killed pretty much all his specialists, so I killed more than him. Really, only a few troopers of mine died and it wasn't anything worth noting about. So yeah, I end up winning that round 4-0. Last game, evacuation, and as I said in my briefing, my plan worked. I completed both my classifieds in round 1 or early on, and then I had time to just extract some civilians as well, giving me a 6-4 win, which was quite good considering end of the tournament, quite hot, brain was fried, dehydrated. Yeah. Overall, I won 2 out of 3 games, and I was pretty happy with that, and that helped lead me to coming 3rd overall out of the 6 competitors. So, what did I learn? I found playing military orders to be fun. Bringing my experience from playing Nomads in previous tournaments, playing with military orders has been quite enjoyable. They are, I would say, simple to use. Having very good ballistic skill makes shooting more favourable, and it's just nice to be able to have the ability to shoot. You know, compared to Nomads, which generally have a BS of 13, while BS 14 is slightly better, it is a noticeable difference in winning face-to-face rolls. And I feel that the Knights have a bit of a redundancy to them. So for example, with Nomads, you know, each trooper has a specific role, and once that trooper is unconscious or dead, there is a gap that cannot be covered by other troopers in the list. Whereas for military orders, I feel like it has enough solid shooters to continue the fight, with enough alternatives that if one trooper goes down, another can fill its role, such as a Crozier HMG. This could also be explained by me having the experience to use my troopers for their intended role correctly. But upon reflection, when using Nomads, if I lost the Cylinder HMG, then that arrow role cannot be fulfilled. And when I was playing with nomads, each trooper feels like it must stay within its role and be used specifically for it, whereas the knights have slight overlap, which obviously makes them a bit of a narrower faction to play. But sometimes having a simple army is good to play because it keeps me focused on the mission and doing what needs to be done. Instead of having all these options available, I keep it to a few options and just play those minimal options well. Following on from before and trying to tie in with Sneaky Snake's thoughts, I do think Military Orders is overall a multi-role sectorial. There are plenty of troopers, albeit expensive, that can perform 2 or 3 roles in a list, making the sectorial something of a good mission-focused army. While Military Orders does not have any outstanding troopers that dominate a specific role within the faction or sectorial, they have enough skills and relevant attributes to perform objectives successfully. So Deferson, Knight of Justice, the Crux, the Crusader Brethren, and Joan of Arc, they can all shoot very well and fight enough to keep them alive in a few turns of close combat, and can complete objectives easily in missions. Croziers in a fire team are a solid defensive and attack team, but must be used directly for those roles. I would like to lean into this theory a bit more and see how well it plays by having a list comprising of a few good multi-role troopers with fire team support, mainly just duos. So, example would be Deferson and a Hospitaller, Deferson Spitfire and Hospitaller Timbot -3, maybe a Knight of Justice with another Hospitaller Timbot -3, just to be there for that +1 special die in shooting because they are good at shooting. Then maybe what is it? You're already pushing points with just those two themselves, but maybe a Teutonic Spitfire NCO with Santiago killer hacking device, just as another hacker. Like, yes, it's hacking dominated, but also adds -3, and the Teutonic Knight makes it harder to be isolated and carbonated. And then just have a good core fire team of Croziers with maybe a Black Friar or something just to round out the utility of it. So it'd be interesting to play into it, that's for sure. Something that was important that I noticed was, regardless of how good a trooper attributes are, the dice will always decide the outcome. I observed how rolling really low or really high numbers make a player lose face-to-face rolls. My first game and my opponents in my second and third just had bad dice. The calculations were mostly favourable for both of us, yet the dice just did not allow those important successes to manifest. For example, the Crozier multi-sniper rifle during ARO was just always successfully taking out my opponent's troops in games 2 and 3. Sure, you can argue that having a +1 special dice helps, but having favourable dice really helps. The Crozier multi-sniper rifle and Black Friar heavy rocket launcher in my casual games always died in the first few orders of round 1, never having any impact. But in this tournament, the Crozier multi-sniper rifle was the most valuable trooper. He alone did a lot of the obstruction to my opponent's game plan. I was impressed by how well the profile performed when dice supported it. Something I noticed during the tournament was how fatiguing the heat and standing can be afterwards. My neck was stiff and sore from looking down for at least 90% of the time for an 8 or 9 hour tournament. I was on my feet for most of it, bedding down and moving. It does help to have some level of fitness to reduce oneself from mental fatigue over the course of the day. Staying hydrated is a huge factor to consider. Something to think about for those wanting to play at CanCon 2026, as it's been noted from Lost Lieutenant that it is playing in a very hot shed. It has been hard with a young toddler as well, but I need to find those few windows of time to keep up my fitness regime. And finally, something I would like to make a further video about is how to deal with bad dice. For now, my thoughts are doing things that do not require rolls to succeed, such as deploying mines or equipment, or moving into defendable positions and placing troopers on suppressor fire. Such decisions can be done by only spending orders, and it makes it harder for the opponent to play the mission. These are just early thoughts, and I might need to play a few more games with bad dice rolls to see if my ideas are workable. this is the end of the battle report for the tournament. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and as always, the dice decide the outcome.